In 305 BCE, the Macedonian king Demetrius laid siege to the island of Rhodes and brought with him a machine unlike anything built before it. The Helepolis stood roughly 9 stories tall, weighed well over 100 tons, and required thousands of men working in relays just to move it forward. Each level housed different siege weapons, catapults, and stone throwers, all protected behind iron plating that made the tower nearly fireproof. It should have been unstoppable. Instead, Rhodian defenders quietly flooded the ground ahead of it with water, sewage, and mud under cover of night. The enormous tower rolled forward the next day and sank into the mud, permanently stuck. Completely unable to reach the walls it was built to destroy. Demetrius eventually abandoned the siege entirely, leaving the crippled tower behind along with his other engines. Here's the twist that makes this one memorable. The Rhodians melted down the tower's iron plating and sold the abandoned equipment, using the proceeds to fund an enormous bronze statue of their sun god. That statue became the Colossus of Rhodes, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, built almost entirely from the wreckage of a war machine that failed. A single failed siege engine, defeated by nothing more than mud, ended up becoming one of the most famous statues in the ancient world. Number 9, Alexander's Causeway, the war machine that wasn't a machine at all, but an entire engineered landmass. In 332 BCE, Alexander the Great arrived at Tyre, a city built on an island half a kilometer offshore, protected by walls that rose directly out of the sea. Alexander had no navy capable of matching Tyre's fleet, so his engineers proposed something absurd: build a solid causeway straight across the open water. Thousands of soldiers and laborers dumped rubble, timber, and stone into the sea for months, extending the structure meter by meter under constant bombardment from the city's defenders. Once the causeway was close enough, Alexander mounted siege towers and battering rams directly onto floating platforms and pushed them against Tyre's seawalls. The defenders fought back with everything available: flaming projectiles, grappling hooks that ripped attackers off the towers, and even superheated sand poured onto exposed skin. After 7 brutal months, the walls finally broke, and Tyre fell to a siege engine that was, technically, an entire artificial peninsula. Parts of that causeway remain today. Silt has built up around the original stones over more than 2,000 years, permanently joining Tyre to the mainland as a solid strip of land. A siege engine so large it permanently rewrote a coastline is not something most armies can claim, even among history's most ambitious commanders. Alexander didn't just capture a city. He accidentally reshaped the coastline of Lebanon, and the geography has never gone back. Number 8, Archimedes' war machines, the moment pure mathematics became a genuine military threat. In 213 BCE, Rome sent a fleet to besiege Syracuse, confident in their superior numbers and standard siege equipment. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The Greek mathematician Archimedes had spent years designing defensive machines for the city, based entirely on principles of leverage, pulleys, and mechanical advantage. Ancient historians describe massive, crane-like devices, sometimes called the claw of Archimedes, that could reach out over the harbor walls and physically hook Roman ships. According to these accounts, the claw would lift a ship partially out of the water, then release it suddenly, capsizing the vessel or smashing it against the rocks below. Roman soldiers reportedly grew so afraid of anything appearing over the walls that they would panic and retreat at the sight of a rope or beam, assuming another device was coming. Modern engineers have built working scale models of the claw mechanism and confirmed the basic physics genuinely could have worked, even if some ancient accounts likely exaggerated the details. The city eventually fell anyway, through a surprise night attack during a distracted festival, not through breaking Archimedes' defenses directly. Whether every detail in ancient accounts is fully accurate or not, the psychological effect on Roman soldiers appears to have been genuine and well documented. Archimedes himself died in the chaos of the city's fall, reportedly still working through a mathematical problem when a Roman soldier found him. Number 7, the polybolos, a repeating artillery piece that modern engineers still find genuinely impressive. Around the 3rd century BCE, an engineer named Dionysius of Alexandria designed a mechanical catapult capable of firing bolt after bolt without needing to be reloaded by hand each time. A chain drive mechanism, remarkably similar in concept to devices that wouldn't reappear in warfare for well over 1,000 years, automatically cycled fresh bolts into firing position. One operator turning a crank could maintain sustained fire, a genuine rate of shots that standard torsion catapults simply couldn't match. The design survives today only through the technical writings of the engineer Philo of Byzantium, describing its mechanism in enough detail for modern reconstructions to be attempted. No archaeological remains of an actual polybolos have ever been found, which means everything we know comes from a single detailed written description. Modern museum reconstructions based on that description have successfully demonstrated the mechanism works exactly as claimed, firing multiple bolts in rapid automatic succession. It's a rare case of a genuinely revolutionary weapon that appears to have seen limited practical use, possibly due to its mechanical complexity and cost, before fading from military history. Number 6. The Roman ramp at Masada. Proof that sometimes the most terrifying machine is simply patience combined with dirt. In 73 CE, Roman forces surrounded the fortress of Masada, built atop a nearly vertical plateau in the Judean desert, seemingly impossible to assault directly. Rather than risk soldiers on the cliff faces, the Roman 10th Legion began constructing an enormous ramp of packed earth and timber, built directly against the mountain itself. Thousands of soldiers and enslaved laborers worked for months, hauling material up the growing slope under the scorching desert sun. Once complete, the ramp allowed Romans to roll a full siege tower and battering ram directly up to the fortress walls, as if the mountain had simply been erased. The scale of the ramp remains visible today, one of the best preserved siege works anywhere in the ancient world, still standing after nearly 2,000 years. When Roman soldiers finally broke through, they reportedly found the defenders had taken their own lives rather than face capture, according to the historian Josephus. Modern archaeologists debate exactly how many died by their own hand versus in the final assault, since Josephus remains the only detailed source for the event. Josephus was writing for a Roman audience decades after the events, which is exactly the kind of detail modern historians flag when treating any single account with appropriate caution. What isn't debated is the ramp itself. No clever mechanism, no revolutionary design, just an entire mountain of dirt moved by hand until the terrain no longer mattered. Number 5. The Cherubalastra, the Roman army's attempt to make artillery light enough for individual soldiers to carry. By the early centuries CE, Roman military engineers had developed a compact metal-framed torsion weapon, smaller and lighter than the massive siege ballista used against walls. Unlike earlier wooden frame designs, this version used all-metal springs and frame components, making it more durable and considerably more compact for its power. Surviving fragments recovered from Roman military sites across Europe have allowed modern archaeologists to reconstruct the mechanism with genuine confidence. Depicted on Trajan's column, teams of Roman soldiers can be seen operating these devices from mule-drawn carts, providing mobile fire support that could keep pace with marching legions. This gave Roman armies something most ancient forces lacked entirely: genuine field artillery that didn't require weeks of siege preparation to bring into action. Despite its effectiveness, detailed knowledge of the exact all-metal design faded after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. An equivalent technology wouldn't reappear in Europe for centuries. Number 4. The traction trebuchet, the swinging arm that quietly conquered half the ancient world before anyone in Europe had heard of it. Chinese military texts describe swinging arm catapults, powered by teams of soldiers, pulling ropes attached to one end of a long beam dating back over 2,000 years. Unlike torsion weapons that stored energy in twisted rope or sinew, this design relied entirely on human muscle power, pulling in coordinated unison to launch projectiles. The technology spread gradually westward along trade routes, adopted and refined by various Islamic dynasties who became particularly skilled at building larger, more powerful versions. European crusaders encountered these machines during campaigns in the Middle East, and the design was subsequently adopted across medieval Europe under various regional names. For centuries, this remained the standard siege engine across an enormous stretch of the ancient and medieval world, from China to Western Europe. Its main limitation was raw power. No matter how many soldiers pulled the ropes, human muscle could only generate so much throwing force. That limitation would eventually be solved by a completely different approach to the same basic swinging arm design, one that removed human muscle from the equation entirely. Number 3. The counterweight trebuchet at Xiangyang, the siege engine that ended a 5-year war in weeks. Starting in 1267, Mongol forces besieged the Chinese city of Xiangyang, a heavily fortified stronghold protecting the approach to the Song dynasty's heartland. For years, the siege dragged on without resolution, the city's massive walls simply too strong for any weapon the Mongols had available. Kublai Khan requested engineers from the Islamic world, and 2 specialists, generally identified in period records as Ismail and Ala al-Din, arrived with a radically improved design. Their counterweight trebuchets replaced teams of pulling soldiers with an enormous swinging weight, storing far more energy and launching projectiles with dramatically greater force and range. Contemporary accounts describe stones from these machines striking with enough force to shatter fortifications that had withstood years of conventional bombardment. Xiangyang, which had resisted every previous assault for half a decade, surrendered within weeks of the new machines arriving at the siege lines. It is one of the clearest documented cases in military history where a specific piece of technology, not troop numbers or strategy, directly decided the outcome of a war. The fall of Xiangyang effectively broke the Song dynasty's southern defensive line, opening the path for the Mongol conquest of all of China. A single engineering upgrade to an existing weapon design didn't just win one siege, it arguably ended an entire empire's ability to resist conquest at all. Number 2. The gastrophetes, the belly bow that quietly launched every mechanical weapon that came after it. Sometime around the early 4th century BCE, engineers working in the Greek city of Syracuse developed a weapon that had never existed before, in any form. Unlike a hand-drawn bow, this device used a mechanical sliding stock and a trigger mechanism, allowing a single soldier to store far more force than human arms alone could manage. To load it, a soldier braced the weapon's curved end against their stomach and pushed down with their entire body weight to draw back the string. That awkward-sounding loading method is exactly where the weapon gets its name, which translates roughly to belly bow. It fired projectiles with significantly more power and range than any handheld bow of its era, while requiring less raw physical strength from the operator. Ancient engineers quickly recognized its potential, and the basic mechanical principles were scaled up into larger, torsion-powered artillery pieces over the following decades. Every catapult, ballista, and mechanical crossbow that followed across the ancient and medieval world can trace its underlying mechanism back to this single, unglamorous invention. Number 1. Orban's cannon, the single machine that ended an empire that had survived for over 1,000 years. By 1453, the Byzantine Empire had shrunk to little more than the walled city of Constantinople itself, the last surviving fragment of the Roman Empire. Those walls had defended the city successfully for over 1,000 years, surviving siege after siege from armies far larger than the one that would finally succeed. A Hungarian engineer named Orban approached the Byzantine emperor first, offering to build weapons capable of breaching those legendary walls, but was turned away for lack of funds. Orban then offered his services to the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II instead, who funded the construction of an artillery piece unlike anything built before it. The resulting cannon, sometimes called the basilica, was reportedly over 8 meters long and could fire stone projectiles, weighing several hundred kilograms. It took a team of dozens of oxen and hundreds of men just to transport the weapon to Constantinople. and reloading it between shots reportedly took hours. Despite its slow rate of fire, the sheer force of each shot gradually pounded sections of the ancient walls into rubble over weeks of continuous bombardment. Byzantine defenders patched the crumbling sections through the night as best they could, but the walls simply could not be repaired faster than the cannon could destroy them. On May 29, 1453, Ottoman forces breached the walls and took the city, ending the Byzantine Empire and, with it, the final direct continuation of ancient Rome. So here's what ties all 10 of these machines together. Not one of them won through raw size or brute force alone. The Helepolis was massive and still failed. Archimedes' claw was clever, and the city still fell to a surprise attack instead. The Gastrophetes was small and unglamorous, yet it fathered every mechanical weapon that followed it for 2,000 years. What actually mattered again and again was whether a machine solved the one specific problem standing between an army and a wall that had never been broken before. Sometimes that problem was distance. Sometimes it was raw force. Sometimes it was simply moving an entire mountain of earth, one basket at a time, until the terrain itself stopped being an obstacle. And once in a very great while, solving that one problem correctly was enough to end a war, a dynasty, or an empire that had outlasted every previous army sent against it. See you next time.